Yo guys, just a small little video here before I get started on the day. I just woke up and I was feeling like while I drink this morning coffee, maybe I could make a video. Just because I do want to make videos and I also want to stream, but I just have so little energy these days. So I'm going to try a new strategy where I basically just try to cram it in. Um, when I have a small like window of time and energy. Yeah, and I thought that topic for today should be how I did at nationals because I actually haven't talked about that. Um, it was a while ago, actually. I think it's almost a month ago now, or maybe just 3 weeks. I honestly can't remember. No, it was the 27th and 28th of June, and today is Friday, the 7th July. Yeah, so it's been like 3 weeks, maybe. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. But overall, my experience was great. I actually, yeah, I'm very happy with it. But yeah, but I did get a sick day two and had to leave before the day two event even started. Actually, so yeah, I never even played day two. Um, even though I did qualify for day two. But yeah, I got sick. I have a chronic mental illness, as the name suggests, I've been dealing with for a long time, uh, basically forever, right? So, and I just get symptoms from that sometimes, and I just, yeah, got them here and had to go home. Which is not like it's not too surprising. Like that actually happens quite frequently. Obviously, I had hoped it wouldn't interfere with the nationals, but I was not too surprised when it did, honestly. Um, and yeah, so it's a bit of a shame, honestly, and maybe I'll talk more about that later in the video. But first, I just wanted to talk a bit about how it went day one at least, and how my prep went and stuff like that. Um, I was actually pretty confident about my deck configuration for the tournament. I was not. I was a bit hesitant about saying that because I'm actually not too confident in my deck, like in my archetype. I'm still just playing Radiant Typhoon, um, mainly just because, well, for one, I just think the deck is really fun, and I really like playing it. And I don't think it's that terrible. It's not like unplayable by any means. And then secondly, I just haven't really felt like learning a new deck, or that rather, there haven't really been a deck that have like caught my eyes, like where I went like, oh, this is really interesting. This might be more fun than Radiant Typhoon. And I do, even though I guess I am a bit of a competitive player, I do mainly just play for fun in the sense that I like playing competitively, but I play competitively for fun, if that makes sense. So I'm not really playing to win a lot of tournaments. I'm just playing because I think it's fun, but I still like playing competitively. Maybe that makes sense to you, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But yeah, so I picked. I just stayed with Radiant because, to be honest, I did not have a lot of time to prep, and I after the ban list dropped and limited chant, I actually did kind of feel like the deck was unplayable. Um, but even just sitting with it for a while with those thoughts, I actually reached the conclusion that even if the deck is unplayable after the hit to Radiant Typhoon Chant, I'm just gonna play it anyway because I just love the deck, and I also didn't really have time or energy to learn a new deck at that point before nationals. Like my calendar was pretty booked up. Um, so yeah, I just figured it would be a lot easier to just um, stay with Radiant, and I wasn't planning on going to Euros anyway this year because of money. I just didn't have the money to go, basically. So I wasn't even trying to qualify, and have been trying to qualify for Euros anyway. So, getting a good uh, record at the nationals was not even that important to me, honestly. So I figured instead of going through the hassle of learning a new deck, especially since there wasn't really a deck I had like my eyes on, really. Like, I think the only one that sort of interested me a little was maybe Sky Striker and Blitzkrieg, maybe, because they seem kind of similar in playstyle to Radiant, but I don't really like the aesthetic of either of those compared to Radiant. So yeah, pretty much I just stuck with Radiant, and will probably continue sticking with Radiant. Hopefully Chant will get unlimited again. Or maybe it's just one of those cases where they completely forget about it and it stays in the ban list for years. I really hope not. But I mean, Radiant did not get a single top 64 at either Euros or NAWCQ, so Konami, I think it's pretty safe for you to just put put the Chant off the ban list. The Radiant Typhoon is not doing anything right now, and it probably wouldn't have done a lot either with the Chant. And honestly, it's not even like the Chant. Like, the Chant does not really increase the power level of the deck, so it's literally just consistency. It's just you can still play the deck totally fine. It's totally viable after the limit to Chant. It's just a bit more annoying because you just break more and you have to play more awkward starters that lose to draw more. So yeah, I feel like they could just bring Chant back and it would be fine. We get a little bit more. We get some nicer consistency options. The deck still isn't and never had been very consistent, even when Chant was at 3. So it's not like we can just completely avoid playing other consistency cards. But okay, I'm going on a weird tangent here about the bad list and Chant and stuff like that. But yeah, so the national. So I picked Radiant pretty early on. I think a week after the ban list, I was like, I'm just still gonna go with Radiant, and so I started prepping deck lists. Because obviously a decent amount changed after Chen got limited, and I spent a lot of time with the deck list actually, and so I had it pretty much done a week before the tournament. I was logged in with the deck list, and I was actually pretty proud of it. I thought it was pretty good. I still think I made the right deck list for the event. It was basically kind of like Felix Pfeiffer style with 2 Pot of Extravagances, 1 extra Ascendance, so 2 copies of Ascendance, and 2 copies of Manifestations, which I actually really like. I like Manifestation a lot in Radiant Typhoon. It's a bit hard to find space for it because it just doesn't really do anything, and you kind of want, your cards to do stuff. But if you can find the space for Manifestation, it really does a lot for you, especially on the draw and also going second. Um, so I like that. And then 1 Shield Bearer, and actually 1 extra Megala as well, so main deck and 2 Megalas. And then just only playing 12 non-engine, which was 3 Sheena, um, Called by Talents, 2 Droplets, 2 Crowns, and 3 Fallen Individuals, basically. And that was like my flag spots. I spent those, and I really liked it because I liked going down from 13 to 12 non-engine and putting in the extra Megala, the second copy of Megala, because I really wanted to hit that 90%, a bit above 90% chance of opening a play in game one, going first. Like, I think the build I had ended up being like 91.47% of opening one play and a pretty decent chance of opening multiple plays in the opening hand. And the reasoning was basically that, well, there was two reasons. The first one was that I've just figured if I win the die roll and I go first, then I just don't want to break because, um, well, obviously breaking is bad, but in Radiant Typhoon, especially in game one, because people are not going to have draw most of the time, and people are not going to have Lightning Storm or Duster a lot of the time. So you really have a great chance of winning the game if you can actually play, if you win the die roll going first. And the second reason was that my side was completely filled with hard going second cards like Sphere Modes, Fuvelas, Lightning Storm, Duster, stuff like that. I had so many cards that I wanted to side in, post side going second, that putting in a bit, making my main deck a bit more going first skewed, actually made some extra spots so I could take out a lot of engine. I could put in these really powerful blind second cards, or not blind second, but you know what I mean, cards you can only use going second. And so the siding patterns just become a lot cleaner when I went up from, 27 to 28 engine cards I made. And and obviously, going second, game one was a little more shaky with only 12 engine card, but the thing is that against Cool Tune and Branded, which were the two most popular decks at the time, um, well, against Cool Tune, it's actually fine to have more engine cards. The worst thing that can happen against Cool Tune when you go second is just seeing duplicates. So the 13th engine card that I cut was the third copy of Droplet, and that's pretty much just because I didn't want to see duplicates, and it worked out fine actually. And then game one going second against Branded, just going back to Cooltown, also just because it's not like having a ton of non-engine is going to save you when you go second against Cooltown. Most often they're going to sit with like an Ash and a Bell in their hand, just gonna stop your place. And so sitting with a lot of non-engine, it can definitely help you sometimes, but most often than not, I think you win the game against Cooltoon going second when you have 3 pushes with your engine. So, and then 2 engine cards. Um, so I didn't even really mind having a bit extra engine going second against Cooltoon. If you get to set up against Cooltoon, it's pretty likely you'll win. So just having enough engine to push through their interruptions from the hand, deal with the Ceylon with a Board Breaker, and their to negate they have they enact what's it called, RX or something, like, why did I forget what it's called now? I deal with the on-field interruptions using 1 or 2 non-engine cards, and then just push through the hand interruption with some distinct plays from your hand. I think it's fine. If you get to push through with your engine, set up a small board, you should be able to win. And then against Branded, the Branded matchup is just very favorable anyway, so the worst thing that can really happen in that matchup is that you brick. If you can play, it's usually going to be fine. Your engine is very strong into Branded, so even going second, because this is game one, they won't have the DFLC luck, most likely. So you're pretty free to just play. And you don't need a lot of non-engine to beat Branded with Radiant Typhoon. So I felt like the two most popular decks were pretty manageable with a high engine build of Radiant. And then, of course, you probably lose when you lose the die roll to a lot of the combo decks because you're playing 12 Dimension and they're all board breakers, so your chances against those decks, game one is just horrible. But yeah, that was the risk I was willing to take because I had just a ton of cards in the side deck for those specifically, those combo decks specifically. Um, so that was the deck building idea, and I felt like it was actually pretty sound. Um, I think it was the right choice actually. And so day one, I went 5-2, which was okay. I felt pretty good about it. Mainly just because I feel like I was tackling a lot of the issues from my last nationals very like in a good way. Like basically my main issue last nationals. Um, at that time I played Mitsurugi, but my main issue there was that I was way too emotional. I was like very like I am an emotional player, but at the last nationals I did fine as well. I made top 32 I think, and got invited for Euros, but my record wasn't very great. And it's a small nationals as well. It's Danish nationals, so it's not terribly hard to reach top 32. But the main thing I wanted to improve on from last nationals what was that I was like very emotional last national. I was so emotional. I was like when I was winning, I was like yes. When I was losing, I was like super tilted, and yeah, it was up and down, and I was way too impacted by my emotions last nationals basically. And I think I really fixed that this time. I was way more calm. um, I was way more okay with just it going the way it would go. Like I didn't have these expectations for how I was going to perform and stuff like that. So I could just play the game pretty casually actually, and didn't have to worry too much about winning or losing. Um, and that actually helped me play better a lot. So I feel like it dealt with that issue pretty well, and I the solution for it really is to just relax and not take it too seriously. Actually, it's like if you have too many expectations going in, it's going to mess with your head. At least my head. So just not really um expecting too much and just trying to have fun with it. That was my genuine goal with it. Even though I like to play competitively, obviously, my main goal is still just to have fun. And I just told myself that I'm going into this event and I'm just going to have fun. That's all I want to do. It's a win if I'm having fun, and that mentality made it so I didn't care too much. Like I didn't get too much caught up in my emotions when I won or when I lost. I did have one pretty frustrating loss. I'll get to that, um, but overall, I just was really calm, um, and it was fun. It was actually more fun than last year, even though I technically did better last year because I actually played on day two. Uh, um, this year was just much more fun. I had a ton of fun playing. I really love this game, and I love playing this game competitively. I love seeing this game, watching this game competitively. But sometimes you can get caught up in it and lose the sight of why you're even doing it to begin with, which for me is just that I think it's fun. Um, and so, yeah, that was a huge success this year, honestly. And so I can remember all the rounds. I think round one, I think I can't even remember what happened round one, honestly. I played against Oh yeah, I played against Dark Lords, which was so funny because I went there with my good friend Niklas, was also playing Dark Lords. And so we actually did some testing. So and I know Dark Lords a bit. And so I just queue up against Dark Lords round one and I was like, what are the odds of this happening? And it's actually a pretty tough matchup when they win the die roll, which they did. And the other thing that was that he was pretty new at the game, so we were a bit close to going into time, but luckily we managed to get the game closed, get the match closed before time. Um, so yeah, and I didn't end up winning that, but because he was kind of new at the game, honestly. Didn't really know the Radiant Typhoon cards that well, and I had actually practiced this matchup. And that's another thing I actually haven't practiced. One thing I didn't do that well for this tournament is that I didn't prepare as much when it came to just practicing. Like I spent a disproportionate amount of time on my deck list, which was worth it, I guess, but I did not spend a lot of time actually practicing, and that came back to bite me later in the tournament, definitely. But yeah, Douglas was just randomly one of those rogue decks that I actually knew, and so yeah, I made some misplays. Definitely, it could have been a 2-0, but I made a pretty serious misplay that lost me game 2, but luckily managed to win game 3. Yeah, and then round 2, I honestly can't remember. I think it was maybe round 2. No, I have no idea, but I ended up winning that as well. And then round 3, I queued against another trans woman actually who was playing Clown Crew. And we got a deck check, so we had to wait for like 15 minutes. But then we started and she just bricked. So yeah, it was pretty climactic. Um, but yeah, I ended up winning that too, mainly just because she bricked. Although I still think Clown Crew is a pretty good matchup for Radiant because you can just kind of chill because Clown Crew are not that good at actually closing out the game, and you can fight through their hand traps pretty easily. And they need to draw like Dimensional Fissure or Solemn Accusation, something like that, to really win. Like they need to have some special non-engine to win against you, I think. Or you just need to break, which luckily she did instead of me. So yeah. And then um yeah, round 4 I actually it was the game I lost mainly due to my misplays, which is like it's a good and a bad place to be simultaneously. I mean, I um not necessarily misplays, although I did also lose to misplays, but mainly just a lack of prep. Like this was the match I lost due to a lack of preparation. I got sent on feature, which was pretty fun. I got queued up against Archmage Power Patron, and this was just one of those decks I haven't prepared for at all. I kind of knew what the Archmage cards did. I kind of knew what the Power Patrons cards did. I have not seen them together since the new cards came out. So I wasn't. I kind of have played a bit against pure Archmage from back in the day, a bit, like not much, and I have also played a bit against Power Patron, but not much. And then combining them, it was like this completely crazy combo deck. And he also won the die roll, and he created this crazy board. And I actually think I could have broken it, honestly, because my hand was pretty good, but I misplayed. I ended up um, using my Fallen the Virtues on. Basically, I could pick between two of his M board pieces that both negated. So I just needed to trade with the Fallen the Virtues for negate. And I ended up picking the one that negated the effect instead of the activation. So he was left with his negation that negated activations instead of effects. And that actually became a huge problem later on in the turn because I just really needed to activate a quick play. Doesn't even matter what it was. It was for Crochet in my hand and Phonics on the field. And I just I think it was actually manifestations. I just activated manifestations to get MST, and he goes negate activation. And so, yeah, if you don't know Radiant Typhoon, all the monsters they trigger on a quick play being activated. So cards like Ghost Bell, yeah, also endboard pieces that specifically negate activation of your card are really brutal. And I should have picked up on that. I should have read um, the cards closer. I think it was Deactress and Barudras, and I ended up using Fallen Under Virtues on Deactress, which negated effects on the field. Barudras negates activations, I think, and I messed that up. So I lost game one. I was pretty fine with that because honestly, I was already in my head being like, yeah, this guy I'm playing against, he's really good. He's playing a pretty nice deck that I have no idea how works. He won the die roll. I'm kind of okay with me losing this. Obviously, I still wanted to win, but if it came to me losing, like if it came to, there being like 1 minute left and being called time in game three, I would probably just give him the win because he's playing well. He's playing a deck I don't know. I have to read all the cards. In that situation, I feel like I'm just, I just lost that match based on my lacking preparation, and I'm completely fine with that. Again, like instead of getting too frustrated about this, I just had this mentality of being like, I'm just going to have fun. And if I queue into a deck that I don't know, I'm not going to suddenly get very frustrated about it and try to eke out a win, um, despite me not knowing any of the cards. I'm just going to chill and read the cards and give my opponent a win if it comes to that. That was my sort of um, approach, and even though it wasn't feature, I guess. But we didn't even get that far because in game two, I made two illegal activations, which was kind of hilarious, and I got a game loss, and so he won the match. And my first, like my hand going going first actually in game two was ridiculous. Like it was actually the worst Radiant hand you could ever imagine. It was three Eldems and a Shield Bearer, and I can't actually remember the last card. I think the last card was MST. So like three Eldems plus the Shield Bearer, and the Shield Bearer, the Noble Knight, only searches the Eldem. So the issue was I couldn't even activate it because I had all my three Eldems in hand already. So I had no legal target in my deck, and honestly, I kind of knew that in the first turn, so I didn't activate it, obviously, because I already had the three Eldems in my hand. But so I basically played out I normal summoned one Eldem, special summoned the other Eldem, and that got interrupted. So I just had two Eldems and an MST in my hand, and at the third Eldem and the Shield Bearer, like I had absolutely nothing. So just go into the link 2 um, with the two Eldems and search an MST and set the two MSTs, I think. I actually managed to survive the turn. But then when it come around, I oh wait, I did also use my third Eldem somehow. Maybe for a droplet, something like that. Yeah, maybe the third card was actually a droplet. But anyway, it comes back to me, and I somehow only have the Noble Knight in my hand, and all three Eldems are in the graveyard. And I just instinctively activate it because I'm going like, oh, I have a play, I can search Eldem and uh, start my plays, right? But all three Eldems in the graveyard. So yeah, I Judge caught that pretty instantly, and I got a warning, which was totally fair, of course. But also, I don't blame myself too much for that, although it was pretty stupid of me. I just have never had the hand. If you play Radiant, you know how. Like, I have never had that hand before. Three Eldems plus Shield Bearer. I've never been in the situation where I couldn't activate Shield Bearer. It literally never happened. I played hundreds and hundreds of Radiant games, and not being able to activate Shield Bearer has literally never happened to me. So me just instinctively activating it without really thinking too much, and by the way, I picked up it. up on it immediately before I even picked up my deck and searched it. I was like, oh, because I had to banish the Elder, right? And right next to the banish pile is my graveyard, and I could just see 3 Elder. So I was like, oh, yeah, I can't do that. And I got a warning for it, even though I didn't even pick up my deck. So yeah. Yeah, I don't actually blame myself too much because this like one of those things that it happens once and it never happens again, and I guess next time I'll know, right? But the game was actually um, super close from that point on. We both just didn't draw any engine. We just drew non-engine, and I was able to just survive. Or he drew engine, but MST is apparently pretty good into Admage and Power Patron at stuffing their plays, and I drew into a Fallen Virtuous, so I was able to like um, really slow the game down a lot. And that was my second illegal activation, is that I had actually sided out the third copy of Fallen Virtuous, which I normally don't do. So it was I think I wanted, and I didn't want to side out. I don't remember what happened honestly, but I sided out the third copy of Fallen Virtuous in game two going first, and I just forgot. So I activated Albion in the end phase, and I didn't have a third copy of Fallen Virtues in my deck as such. So yeah, that was pretty dumb, and I got a illegal activation, and the warning got upgraded to a game loss because of that. But I actually would have won because my next draw for turn was Sven. So yeah, I would have drawn into a play, and he didn't have anything. We were both like super stripped down, simplified game state, so I would actually have won with that. And then it would have gone into a game three, and then he would have gone first, and you know what? I'll probably lose that game. So I was actually not too mad about getting a game loss for some illegal activations. Obviously, it was dumb. I mean, this was one of those things where I'm sometimes get down. I'm sometimes my other issue other than being too emotional is that I just lose focus and I play a little bit too fast and don't think that second time about what I'm doing. And so I think that could all have been avoided by me just thinking a bit more. Get down. That could. She's okay, by the way. She's not allowed to climb in the window. She's destroying the painting on the window, but yeah. 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 But yeah, could have obviously all been prevented, but I mean, that's just one of those things where, yeah, I'm gonna make a silly mistake. That's just how I am. Maybe one day I'll get better and not make silly mistakes, but I've been playing so far for 2 years and I have not stopped making silly mistakes. So yeah, I think this is just not too surprising to me that I make an illegal activation of some cards and lose because of it. It's actually not too surprising. I don't even think that I, you know, did anything particularly wrong in my prep. I mean, I'm working on my focus, ability to focus, and I think that's all I can do. Just get better at focusing and get better at taking a bit more time to think, what am I doing, right? Activating Noble Knight with all 3 Eldams in graveyard. Maybe if I just spent a couple of extra seconds thinking about that, it could have been avoided. I mean, probably, right? So just not even a game thing. I think it's just more of a focus thing. So yeah, but yeah, I wasn't too mad either because honestly, in game three, he go first post side with that crazy combo deck. I probably would have lost anyway. Honestly, I didn't know the cards. We would have gone into time. My odds of winning against those heavy combo decks is pretty low anyway. I have to basically draw sphere mode, and so yeah, I was fine with that. Honestly, I think I would have lost anyway. Maybe not even due to me just activating illegal cards, although that was technically the reason I lost, but really just because I wasn't prepped for that deck at all. I didn't know what it did. really. So I think I just lost because of that, honestly. Um, yeah, and the next round I actually also lost, and that was a bit more frustrating. I played against Yummy Fiendsmith, which is a really good matchup for me. Like, so I was a bit, I got a bit emotional there. I got a bit frustrated. I got a bit tilted. Get down. I got a bit, I get a bit tilted because he was like, he hadn't played for like a couple of months. He was pretty good, like, but he just wasn't really didn't really play that well. I feel like he just, he activated Purge, he got locked on the Purge, then he went into SB. I was like, bro, you can't do that. Then he went into Camellia, you can't do either. And then it's like, I mean, he didn't know the Radiant Typhoon cards that well. I mean, he knew them, but he didn't know how to play against them, honestly. He wasn't playing that great, I think. I just still lost, and he it was a frustrating game, really. I wanted Iroh. I wanted Iroh. I made one critical mistake. I had basically Visions and Crucia and Coldfire, and I and some two other cards I can't remember. And I activated Visions to draw two, and he ashes it. And in my mind, I'm like, this is fine because I still have Crucia, and I could just call by whatever he chooses to use on Crucia, and then um, I can play it, right. I don't need this vision to resolve. Was basically what I was thinking. But I actually did pick up on what would happen even before that. I was thinking, oh, but then what if he has an imperm or a purge? Because I cannot call by that, and I don't have any other place in my hand. But somehow I decided still not to call by the ash on the visions. I don't know why, but that was exactly what happened. He had a purge for the crochet. I couldn't call by it, and yeah, Uh, and the vision would have actually drawn into a spell, so that would be a second play. And he only had those two interruptions, and so yeah, that was a pretty big misplay from my side. I think in hindsight, I should have definitely called by Ash to make the vision resolve, just in case he has Purge or Imperm for the Crochet, which is, by the way, much more likely than him having the bell or like the Veiler or something like that. Like when you already use the Ash, there's not too big many options left to interrupt the crochet other than the trap hand traps. So, yeah, just a dumb misplay. But I had a lot of non-engines, so I think that's why I feel like it's fine. I'll just survive and try again next turn. But he just he actually had cross out as well. He main deck cross out, which was like I had not seen that coming. So yeah, he giga wrecked me with cross out. Um, yeah, and he won. And then game two was really messy. Like I had just had a terrible hand. Like I opened triple Ash Blossom, one Eldim, and a Sheena. Like this is just an incredibly terrible hand, especially into Yummy Fiendsmith because they play a lot of hand traps. So the Eldim is basically not guaranteed to resolve at all. I was so awful hand. I actually managed to still win that game. It was a long, long game. I ended up using all three Ash Blossoms, and I didn't draw a starter for many turns, but I just managed to scrape by and still win. Because the matchup is good for Radiant, honestly. Like, you have very good non-engine into Yummy, like Crown and Fallen the Virtues and Sheena, all crazy cards against Yummy, and you did not play around Sheena. So the matchup is very favorable, and that's why I really thought I would win. But yeah, then game three, he starts and he just had call by for my Fuba. And I sit there with four cards. He goes full combo. He had like three hand traps plus full Young Smith and board. I just didn't have enough plays. So yeah, I lost. You could say I lost to the callback, but in reality, I lost because of my own mistake. Game one, and that was pretty frustrating because not only is it at a favorable matchup for me, but I also feel like my opponent wasn't playing very well, and he was also pretty lucky. And on top of that, I was also pretty unlucky. So yeah, that was one of the games I definitely got a bit frustrated. But you know what? I didn't let it get to me that much because I just reminded myself, hey, I'm just here to have fun, and I, above all, just want to be nice to my opponent. Really, I don't want this to be. I want this to be a good experience for my opponent as well. And I think I succeeded in that. I wasn't getting too mad and stuff. I really just laughed it off. And at the end of the day, I think I lost that because of my own misplays. As much as I could be sitting here and being like, he got too really lucky, which he did, and I got really unlucky, which I did. I think I actually could have still won by not misplaying. And it's again those things where I feel like often I actually know what the correct play is. Like that that line there on Vision where he hashed it, and I sit there and I have the opportunity to call by it, but I don't. I actually did think about Purge and Imperm. I don't know why I didn't, decide upon the correct decision to call by it, but it wasn't because I was, you know, there's a difference between not having these cards on your radar, right, and being like, um, not thinking about it. So that's why you don't use the call by because the purge is maybe not even present in your mind. And so at that point, you really just need to scan more, right? You need to think about, okay, what cards do my opponent have? Um, because you need that information to make the correct decision. But I already had that information. I already did the scanning. I already did think about what my opponent could have. I already did reach the correct conclusion as to what was likely going to happen to Crucia. But I still didn't make the correct decision. And there's no real good explanation for that, I think. Don't know what my logic was. I don't know what my reasoning was. The last line of reasoning was definitely, oh, but he could have imperm or purge. And then after that, I was like, nah, that's not going to happen. Or something like that. I don't even know. Like, so I need that final step of reasoning. And I think the solution is similarly to these illegal activations, just think a bit more. Like, literally just think for 2 seconds more. I think that's actually what's holding me back. I'm just not willing to think a lot. I prefer to think less and make the incorrect play than I do to think a bit more and make the correct decision. And I need to change that, obviously. I think it's a problem with me not being able to focus a lot for a long time. So I just, you know, my lineup, I think my gas in the tank just stopped right there. I did reach the conclusion that that Crucial was probably going to get impermed or purged, but there's no tokens left, right? So it's just like, oh, okay, I ran out of tokens. I'll just do something, right? It really felt that way. I lost the focus. I couldn't keep thinking, so I lost the focus, I zoned out, and I just be like, okay, I need to make a decision. And yeah, so again, going back to, I think what I'm focusing on a lot right now is just really trying to work on my focus, basically. So yeah, that was my second game loss, and then um, game round six, I was playing against Branded player, which was like I'm so happy to finally queue up against Branded because that's one of my best matchups. And then game one, I just break. So I was like, oh, not again. I was getting a bit emotional here. I was like, okay, this is going downhill, right? I just lost 2 matches in a row, and then I win the die roll, but I break. And yeah, so I just lose game one, but I managed to pick up the game two and game three. And then last round, I was playing against Skystriker. He was a really nice guy. Skystriker is a scary matchup for me. It's a bit like dice roll focused because it's like I can like the person who gets to set up first is usually favored in that matchup in my opinion. So if Skystriker wins the die roll and they set up, they're pretty favored to win. If I win the die roll and set up, I'm pretty favored to win. Um, I don't remember which of us won the die roll. I want to say it's me, but I can't actually remember. But we both made a ton of mistakes in that match. It was late. It's round seven, and it was so incredibly hot in the venue. Like it was like a heat wave in Denmark, and it was like maybe this is not going to sound a lot for some of you guys, but it was like 34 degrees Celsius, which is incredibly hot for Denmark. It's like 10 degrees hotter than it usually is. So it's really tough. Like, and I had to work a lot to stay hydrated and stuff like that. But so, yeah, we were pretty deep fried at round 7, and we both made a lot of mistakes. But at the end, I ended up coming up on top. And so I finished day 1 with a 5-2 record. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like I'll talk about day 2, which obviously did not happen, but I'll talk about that in another video because this is getting a bit long. Um, and yeah, I think I'm just going to end it off here, go for a run, and then just start working. So yeah, if you watch this, leave a comment. I don't think anyone watches this. And just to be sure, my cat is okay. She's kind of crazy here in the mornings. Yeah, thank you for watching.